They found him, hiding in a basement, thin, weak, holding his stomach like it hurt, 11 years old. And his own father said he was missing for 11 days. You're watching an unbelievable true story, where we only tell real stories. Not to scare you, but to prepare you. This happened in Detroit, 2014. Police searched the whole neighborhood. They searched the house 4 times. Dogs came in, FBI came in, and still, nobody saw that little boy, because he was locked down in the basement, behind boxes, behind a wall, starving. Here's the part that shakes me. 80% of abuse cases come from people the victim already knows. It ain't strangers in the dark alley. It's people inside your home. And most folks freeze in danger because they never learned what to do. That's why we linked a family safety course in the description and first pinned comment. It shows parents and kids how to spot warning signs, how to escape, and how to protect each other when it matters most. No fluff, just survival. Now stay with me, because we're about to break down who did it, how they got away, and what one move changed everything. Let's get into the full story. They found him. Picture this. It's June 25th, 2014, day 11 of the search. The news already tired of showing the father crying on TV. The FBI frustrated. People whispering in Detroit. Maybe he ran away. Maybe somebody took him. And then, boom, police come out the basement with an 11-year-old boy in their arms. Charlie Bothuell V, alive. Now, let me stop right here, because you gotta understand how wild this was. The father, Charlie 4, had just been on Nancy Grace's live show. You know Nancy, she don't play. She had him on camera. He's sitting there with that tight face, sweating under the lights, talking about how much he missed his son, how he didn't know what happened. Then Nancy interrupts him, looks right at him, and says, "Charlie, we have breaking news. Your son has been found alive in your basement." Man, listen, that man's face cracked wide open. Shock, panic, eyes darting left and right like he just got caught. You can look it up. It's one of the most famous TV moments in true crime. And people at home, we yelling at the screen. Like, hold up, they found your kid in your own basement? And you didn't know? Come on now. Detroit Police Chief James Craig wasn't buying it either. He straight up said, "It's not possible that the boy was in that basement for 11 days without food, without water, without using the bathroom. Somebody knew he was there. Somebody put him there." Now here's where the story cuts deep. Charlie, that boy, told investigators he was made to stay down there. That when he messed up, his father and stepmom punished him. And not the way you punish a kid with grounding or no video games. No, they punished him with hours of exercise. Push-ups, sit-ups, jumping jacks, run until your chest burns. Do it again. Do it till you collapse. And when he couldn't keep up, they beat him with a PVC pipe. Yeah, the kind you use for plumbing. 11 years old. That was his life. Now let me ask you this. You ever been so tired your body just shuts down? Imagine that, but every day. And when you can't go anymore, the people supposed to love you hit you with a pipe. That was Charlie's world. So when he went missing, the truth was he was already broken, locked down in that basement space, behind boxes, too scared to make a sound. And let me tell you, he wasn't found by accident. Officers said when they pulled back the boxes, they noticed it didn't look right. Too neat, like it was built to hide something. Then they heard it. Soft, a little shuffle, a small noise. And there he was. When they asked him how long he'd been there, Charlie said he lost count, said he was hungry, said he didn't know if anybody was ever coming. That's pain, man. That's the kind of pain you don't shake off when the cameras leave. Now let's go back to the dad on Nancy Grace, because that moment says a lot. Nancy said, "Charlie, your son has been found alive." And the man looked like somebody pulled the floor out from under him. Didn't smile, didn't shout, thank God. He looked scared, real scared, because the story he'd been telling, the story about how his son went to the basement and disappeared, it just fell apart on live TV. And people watching at home, we all thinking the same thing. If your boy was in that basement this whole time, then either you lying or you ain't paying attention to your own house. Either way, it don't look good. Now, police didn't arrest him that night, but the questions came hard. How does a man search for his son, cry on TV, stand next to detectives, and not once check the basement? His excuse was weak. Said the basement was too cluttered. Said he thought police already searched it. Said he didn't go back down there. But come on, that's your child. You telling me for 11 days you didn't open one box, didn't peek behind one corner, didn't follow one sound? The streets of Detroit didn't believe it. Neither did investigators. Now, let's talk about Charlie's stepmother, Monique. She played her part too. She was in that house the whole time. And reports said she wasn't kind to that boy. Neighbors said she was harsh, that she pushed him harder than anyone. Later, when police searched again, they found a notebook where Charlie wrote about his punishments. Pages of it, hours of workouts, lists of exercises, notes about pain, notes about fear. That's not a child living free. That's a child living like a prisoner. And let me pause right here, because some people like to say, well, strict parents make strong kids. No, there's a line. When you turn discipline into abuse, you don't make a strong kid. You break a kid. And that's what happened here. Now let's zoom out. Whole country watching. News crews outside the house. Police chief giving statements. Everybody trying to figure out what's real. Meanwhile, Charlie, the boy, he's sitting in protective custody, eating real food, finally sleeping without fear, finally away from the basement. And the first thing he tells investigators? That he thought his dad and stepmom were going to kill him. Man, that's the kind of thing that makes you sit down quiet for a minute, because you don't ever want to hear that come out of a child's mouth. After they found Charlie in that basement, Detroit police didn't play around no more. They started digging into that house, into that family, into every story the father and stepmom told. And what they found, it was ugly. First, they checked the boy. Doctors said Charlie was thin, too thin for an 11-year-old, like he'd been eating scraps. He told them sometimes he only got dry cereal or a banana if he was lucky. Most of the time, nothing. He said he had to sleep on a piece of carpet, cold basement floor under him. He had no blanket, no pillow, just boxes around him like walls. That ain't childhood. That's survival. Then came the punishments. Charlie told investigators his dad made him do 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 jumping jacks, every single day. And if he didn't finish, beat with a PVC pipe. He lifted his shirt and showed the marks. Scars, bruises, the kind that don't come from falling down, the kind that come from someone swinging hard. Now, his father, Charlie Bothuell IV, he tried to talk slick, told police he was only trying to make his son strong, said he wanted him to be disciplined, said he was building a man. But the truth was right there. You don't build a man by breaking a child. You don't build respect by swinging a pipe. You build fear. And fear ain't love. The police saw it. The FBI saw it. Child Protective Services saw it. And then the charges came. In December 2014, Bothuell and Monique were charged with child abuse and torture. Not a slap on the wrist. Torture. Because that's what it was. Think about it. 11 days in a basement. No food. Scared. Thinking you might die. That's not discipline. That's torture. And the courtroom? Man, the courtroom was heavy. You had the boy testifying. Quiet voice. Hands folded. Telling strangers how his dad beat him. Telling them how his stepmom helped hide him. People in the gallery shaking their heads. Some crying. Because it's one thing to read it in the news. It's another to hear a child say, "My dad hit me with a pipe." Now here's where it twists again. The torture charge? It got dropped later. They couldn't stick it. But the child abuse charge? That one stayed. And Charlie IV pled guilty. He admitted in court that he hit his son with a PVC pipe, that he went too far, that it wasn't discipline anymore. It was violence. Judge gave him 18 months of probation. Yeah, you heard me right. Probation, not prison. He walked out the door. Now Monique, his stepmom, she was charged too, but her case dragged on longer. In the end, the jury deadlocked. They couldn't all agree. Charges against her were dropped. So in the eyes of the law, nobody went to prison. But the damage was done. Because that boy, he had to live with the memory, with the scars, with the sound of boxes scraping when he tried to move in the dark. And you can't just heal that in a year. That kind of pain follows you. Now let me pull back for a second, because this ain't just about one boy in Detroit. This is bigger. According to the World Health Organization, 2021, 80% of child abuse cases involve someone the child already knows. Not strangers, not kidnappers. It's people in their own homes. That's why this story matters. Because we all think it won't happen in my house. But sometimes it's happening right under the same roof. And let me tell you, Charlie ain't alone. There are thousands of kids just like him. Scared to speak, scared to run, trapped in their own basements, bedrooms, closets. That's why we linked a family safety course in the description and pin comment. It's made for kids and parents. Shows you how to spot danger signs, how to speak up when something feels wrong, and how to protect each other. Because most times, it ain't strangers you need to fear. It's people already close. Now, back to Charlie. After he was found, he didn't go back to his father. He was placed with his biological mother. And for what's been reported, he started to heal. School, friends, trying to build some kind of normal. But it ain't simple. Imagine being 11 and knowing your own father locked you up. That kind of betrayal? That don't go away easy. The last time the public saw Charlie, he was quiet, didn't like the cameras, didn't want interviews. And who can blame him? He didn't know the world nothing. He just wanted peace. His father, on the other hand, he went right back to TV, talking, trying to clear his name. But the world already saw his face on Nancy Grace. And once people see that, you can't take it back. Let's stop talking about court for a second. Let's talk about the basement, because that's where the story really lives. 11 days, 11 nights, alone. You know how long 11 minutes feels when you're waiting for a bus? Now stretch that into 11 days. Hungry, scared, no clock, no sunlight, just a child and the sound of his own breath. That's what Charlie went through. Day one, he probably thought it was just punishment. Like maybe his dad would open the door in a few hours. Maybe it'd be over when the sun came up. But then day two hit, and his stomach was already folding in, cramps biting like little knives inside. He pressed his hand down like maybe he could hold the hunger in. But hunger don't listen. It just eats at you from the inside. Day three, thirst started, dry throat, lips cracking. Every time he swallowed, it hurt. Like sandpaper sliding down. And still nobody came. He listened. That's all he could do. Footsteps upstairs. The creak of doors. Dogs barking outside. Once in a while, he thought he heard his name. Charlie. But it was muffled. Far away. And he didn't dare yell back. Because what if it wasn't safe? What if it was a trick? What if his dad heard him instead? So he stayed quiet. Curled up on that carpet scrap. Breathing through the fear. By day four, his mind started playing tricks. Basements do that. You hear pipes groaning. Air moving. You start thinking someone's there. Shadows look like hands. Boxes look like faces. Imagine being 11, and every sound feels like it might be the last thing you hear. Day 5. The news outside kept running. His picture on TV, his father on Nancy Grace crying, and Charlie was right under their feet. That's the part that stings. He was so close to freedom, and still trapped. By day 6, his body felt weak, legs shaky. He told investigators later he tried to exercise sometimes. Push-ups, sit-ups, because he thought maybe if he stayed strong, he could run when the chance came. But the hunger made him stop quick. Every push-up felt like pushing against a wall of bricks. Day 7, he stopped counting. The dark started to win. When you're that young, your mind needs light, needs people, needs hope. Without it, the hours bleed into each other. Morning feels like night. Night feels like forever. And Charlie just laid there, breathing slow, wondering if anybody was coming. Day 8, he started thinking maybe he wasn't going to make it out. That's what he told people later, but he thought he might die there. Can you imagine being 11 and thinking that? Kids that age supposed to be thinking about video games, cartoons, what snack they're going to eat after school, not wondering if today's the day they starve to death. Day 9, silence hit him harder than noise, because when it got too quiet, that meant nobody was near. And when nobody's near, you start thinking you're already gone. Day 10, hope gone. That's the worst part. When a kid stops hoping, that's when childhood really dies. Charlie said he started to believe he'd never be found, that this was just it, his life. A dark room, boxes, silence. Day 11, that's when it broke. Officers came back to search again. They pushed those boxes aside. Something fell off. Too neat, too clean, and then they heard it. A shuffle, a sound not supposed to be there. One officer leaned closer, pulled a board, pulled a box, and there he was, eyes wide, stomach sunk in, still alive. The first thing he asked for? Food. Because when you're starving, hope comes second. Survival comes first. And let me tell you, that moment right there, that was a miracle. Because not every story ends with a child being pulled out alive. Some basements don't open in time. Now pause. Think about your own kid, your little brother, your niece. Picture them down there, small body on the floor, whispering for food, too scared to scream. That's what makes this story hurt so deep. Because it ain't just Charlie's story. It's every child who's ever been hidden, silenced, and left to starve. And here's the thing. According to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, 2023, a child goes missing every 40 seconds in the U.S. Every 40 seconds. That means before I even finish this sentence, another kid could be gone. Most times, it ain't strangers. It's somebody close, somebody trusted, somebody already inside the house. That's why this story matters. That's why we tell it raw, not to scare you, but to prepare you. And that's why we added a family safety course in the description and pin comment. It teaches kids and parents how to spot when something's wrong, how to speak up, and how to protect each other. Because you never know when the danger might be coming from right inside your own home. Now, Charlie's story didn't end in that basement. But those 11 days, they never left him. And they never will. When they pulled Charlie out of that basement, the whole house shifted. The father, Charlie Bothuell IV, stood there with his mouth open, like he couldn't believe the boy had been found. Like maybe he thought that hiding place was smarter than the cops. Like maybe he thought the walls would keep the truth buried forever. But truth don't stay buried. Not when a child's involved. News cameras swarmed. Reporters shoved microphones through the air like spears. Everybody wanted to know, how could this happen? Who put him there? Why didn't the father know? And the story blew up. Not just local Detroit. Not just Michigan. Everywhere. Because people couldn't wrap their heads around it. A missing child, found alive, inside his own damn house. That's not just news. That's nightmare news. That's the kind of story that sticks in your gut and don't let go. The father tried to spin it, tried to say he had no idea, tried to act shocked, but prosecutors weren't buying it. The investigation dug deeper. They said the father knew that Charlie wasn't missing the way he wanted the world to think, that he and Monique, the stepmother, had locked that boy away as punishment, starved him, beat him with a PVC pipe, made him do extreme workouts until his little body couldn't take no more. And let me tell you, the details were ugly. Not TV drama ugly. Real ugly. The kind that make you want to turn away, but you can't. They said his blood pressure was sky high, that his growth had stalled, that his body carried marks no child should carry. The father got arrested. So did Monique. The charge? Torture. Child abuse. The kind of words that feel heavy just hearing them. But here's the twist. The system didn't hit him with a hammer like you'd expect. Charlie Bothuell IV made a deal. In 2016, he pled guilty to fourth-degree child abuse. Not torture, not attempted murder. Fourth-degree child abuse. What did he get? 18 months of probation. No jail time. Probation. And the world looked at that and said, that's it. That's all. A child starved and hidden in a basement for 11 days. And the man responsible walks free after probation? Justice didn't feel like justice. It felt like paperwork. Monique's case dragged on too. She faced charges, but they didn't stick as hard as the public wanted. That's the way the system works sometimes. Not fair, not balanced, just legal. And what about Charlie? What about the boy in the middle of all this? He didn't just get to walk back into a normal life. Nah, trauma don't let you do that. Every basement, every closed door, every night without sound, it stays with you. He went into foster care for a while because the court knew he couldn't go back home. How do you send a boy back to the same walls that try to swallow him? Later, his biological mother stepped in. She fought to bring him home with her, away from the man who called himself father, away from the stepmother who saw him as weight to carry. That's where he started to rebuild. But it wasn't easy. Therapists, counselors, court dates, every adult voice asking him to remember, to explain, to relive the nightmare over and over. That's another thing people forget. Survival ain't the end of the story. It's just the beginning of a longer fight. The fight to live past the scars. And Charlie, he had to grow up in the public eye. Every article, every headline, his name, his face, forever tied to that basement. Kids at school whispering, strangers staring, reporters waiting for updates like his pain was a TV series. That's heavy for a grown man. Imagine carrying that at 11. Now here's the raw truth. The last public updates about Charlie came years ago. He stepped out of the spotlight. And maybe that's the best thing, because he deserves peace. He deserves to write his own story, not live forever as the boy in the basement. But the rest of us, we remember, because this ain't just about one boy. It's about what happens when the people kids trust the most become the ones they need to fear. And that's why, once again, we're pointing you to those safety resources below. Because prevention ain't just about locking your doors at night. It's about teaching kids to speak up, teaching adults to listen, and making sure silence never buries another child. So when you hear the name Charlie Bothuell V, don't just think about the basement. Think about the system. Think about the loopholes. Think about every child right now who's stuck in silence, waiting for somebody to move the boxes and finally hear them. So let's step back, take a breath, look at the bigger picture. Because Charlie's story, as wild as it sounds, ain't one of a kind. Every year in America, hundreds of thousands of kids face abuse. Some from strangers, but more often, from family, from the people supposed to love them. You hear that number and it don't sit right. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. They say over 600,000 children were confirmed victims of abuse or neglect in just 1 year. That's not counting the ones who never get reported. That's not counting the kids still hidden in basements, in closets, in plain sight. And here's what's even harder. 3/4 of those kids were hurt by their own parents. You see the pattern? It's not the monster under the bed. It's the one tucking you in. Charlie's case hit the news because he survived, because he was found. But for every child like him, there are too many who don't make it out. Let me name a few. In 2011, there was Jude Mira in New York, killed by his own mother with a fatal dose of drugs. In 2013, Ethan Couch, not the victim, but the teen whose rich parents taught him affluenza instead of accountability. Different story, same theme. Parents failing their own kids. And let's not forget the famous one, Gabriel Fernandez in California, 2013. 8 years old, beaten, burned, tortured, while teachers begged the system to step in. But the system looked away, and Gabriel died. Charlie was one of the lucky ones. He lived to tell it. But it shouldn't take luck. It should take protection. Now, let's talk about justice. 18 months probation for what happened. That's not justice. That's a joke. That's like telling the world, we care about kids, but only a little. And that's the anger that sits in me, and maybe in you too, while we tell these stories. Because behind the facts and the stats, there's a real boy. A boy who just wanted dinner, and a bed, and a dad who hugged him instead of beating him. Now here's where I gotta keep it raw. This ain't just about looking back. It's about looking forward. Because right now, somewhere out there, another Charlie is sitting in silence. Maybe in a basement, maybe in a locked room, maybe just in a house where nobody listens when he speaks. And the only way to stop that is to learn, to pay attention, to care. So I'm gonna say it again. Down in the description, we left resources. Not because it's a pitch, not because it's cute, but because it might save a life. Might stop another kid from living in fear. Self-defense ain't just for women walking home at night. It's for kids learning their voice matters. It's for parents learning how to break the cycle instead of repeating it. It's for communities learning how to watch out for each other. So yeah, Charlie Bothuell V's story is unforgettable, but it should also be unforgivable. Because we can't let probation be the last word. We can't let silence win. I'll end it like this. They found him in the basement, hiding behind boxes. Thin, hungry, scared, but alive. And that's the image burned in my head. A boy surviving, even when the world tried to erase him. Now, if that don't light a fire under us to protect the next child, I don't know what will. So remember his name, remember his fight, and remember, the next story we tell might be even darker. Because out there, in some quiet neighborhood, evil ain't wearing a mask. It's wearing a smile.